There is a moment, and if you've ever had your heart broken, you probably know what I'm talking about, where you can look back and see exactly where things started to go sideways. And this isn't when the relationship ended. It's actually way before that, sometimes months before that moment. A moment where something felt off, where there was this quiet voice inside of you that said, pay attention here. Either you didn't let yourself hear it, or you heard it and didn't know what to do with it. Or you were afraid that saying something would actually push this guy away. And what I have learned from coaching thousands of women through this is something that I want to give you today as a gift before you actually need it. Because here's the deal. Heartbreak rarely arrives without a warning. It almost always traces back to one of 5 specific moments early in a relationship where a boundary that needed to be set wasn't. And so today I'm going to give you all 5 of these boundaries, and I'm going to tell you exactly what each one is, why it matters, and then show you what it looks like in real life in a real relationship, so that the next time you're standing at one of those make or break moments, you will know precisely what to do. Now, as we dive in here, I want to say something super important, and that is that setting a boundary early in a relationship is not the same as being guarded or closed off or difficult to deal with, right? We're not talking about walling off your heart. We're talking about honoring your heart by holding a standard. And standards, when they come from a place of self-respect rather than fear, instead of pushing away the right man, they're actually going to reveal who that right man is. Because know this, a man who is genuinely invested in you, he's going to meet your standards. A man who isn't is going to leave. And here's the thing. You want to know as early as possible which guy you've got. Let's go through all 5 of these standards right now. Standard number 1 is the pace standard. Think about it this way. Emotional intimacy and physical intimacy both need to be paced with demonstrated commitment, not with how he says he feels and not with how you feel in the moment. Our feelings fluctuate. They go all over the place. They get super intense. What really matters is demonstrated commitment. Now, if you want to go deep into standards and really have scripts on what to say and what to do, I highly encourage you to pick up a copy of Cracking the Man Code in chapter 8 when we talk about the alchemy of sex drive. You get all kinds of scripts and exactly what to do for how to install the pace standard. But I want to share a story with you from chapter 8. Story about a woman named Candace, who was a client of mine. She met this guy, they hit it off, it was super exciting, and they got together. Real quickly, they jumped into bed together. Real quickly, they slept together, and it was like the best sex she had ever had. It was amazing, you know? It was like that level of like, yay, I finally found somebody. Classic where he's like, hey, I'll call you soon, and then, and now it's like 5 or 6 days later, it's Friday, she still hasn't heard from him, and she's like, no, not again. Like that same old story. You sleep together and then there's just something about sleeping together. You can learn exactly the mechanisms in the book. I go deep into it, but it throws the relationship off. When the sex way outpaces the emotional commitment for men, their natural instinct is to lose desire to pursue. Their natural instinct is to pull back. Now, Candace's feelings were completely real. Her attachment for this guy was completely real. The intimacy that she shared was real. But this guy's investment level had never matched any of those things. And because there was no pace standard, no internal standard for where the emotional intimacy was going to be in proportion to the physical intimacy, she was already way deep into this relationship before any real deep, intimate information had been shared, whether any emotional commitment had been generated between him and her. And so this pace standard simply says, let the emotional commitment lead the sexual pace. And when that happens, you balance the relationship out and you keep his pursuit high. You allow feelings to develop. You allow the emotional intimacy to deepen. And you keep the investment level aligned to the actual commitment level of the relationship and not the potential that you can see in him. Feelings tell you something, but they are not the evidence of his commitment. Boundary 2 is one that trips up even the most self-aware women, because it involves an assumption that almost everybody makes and almost nobody talks about. And that is the exclusivity standard. Do not take yourself off the market or assume that you're in a relationship until he has clearly, directly, and verbally asked you to be off the market, asked you to be exclusive. I work with a client named Priya, and when we started, she had been seeing this guy for about 4 months, and things were wonderful. Like, it was going along, and this guy was attentive and consistent. He was texting every day. She doesn't like dating more than one person at a time. What she ended up doing was she was like, well, I'm with this guy and it's going well. So she deleted all of her apps. She decided not to date anybody else. Quietly, in her mind, built a future with this guy. She started imagining the future. She was getting way out in front of herself. Maybe you know what I'm talking about. Maybe you've had this experience. A little while later, a mutual friend of theirs mentioned, without really any awareness of the situation, that they had seen him on a dating app that week. Man, my client felt blindsided. And so she brought it up to him. And she was emotionally reactive about this. She was like feeling hurt about this. And when she brought it up to him with that energy, he was genuinely confused by her reaction. Because from his perspective, they had just been dating. There was no conversation about exclusivity. They had never had that conversation. He had never made any promises. There were no agreements broken. And yet she was emotionally hurt. She was devastated, in her words, all because of not keeping a standard for exclusivity and what that means, not letting herself get way out in front of her emotional investment before they are exclusive. Here's what I see happen. 2 people are dating, it's going well, the chemistry is strong, and both people privately think, well, this is going somewhere. This is going somewhere means something different to each one of them without the conversation to actually align it. For her, it might mean that she's off the market and hey, we're building a relationship together. For him, it might mean that he enjoys what they have and is still going to explore until it gets to a level of commitment. Neither person is wrong, and that's super important. Nobody's wrong here, but only one person is going to get their heart broken without that conversation. The exclusivity standard means that you don't stop exploring your own options and you don't start emotionally living inside a relationship that isn't actually there until you have spoken this agreement with each other, until you guys have an exclusivity agreement. And here's a clue. If that conversation feels scary to initiate, that's worth paying attention to, because a man who wants to be with you will make it easy to have that conversation. He actually might bring it up himself, or he'll respond to you with respect and kindness when you bring it up. Standard number 3 is one that feels the most counterintuitive, because everything inside you will want to do the opposite. And the more you like this guy, the stronger that pull will become. And standard number 3 is the pursuit boundary. Do not compensate for his lack of effort or lack of pursuit by increasing your own pursuit. When a person that we like goes quiet for a few days, every instinct in us says, reach out, send a message, ask if everything's okay, send something funny to break the silence, like keep the momentum going. And it comes from a good place in every one of us. It's caring, it's loving, it's wanting that connection. Masculine energy is oriented towards pursuit. It is energized by working towards something, by the sense of achievement that comes from earning something of value, like that connection with you. You do the reaching out, the initiating, the effort to keep things alive that removes the opportunity for him. And without that opportunity to invest, his investments don't grow and the whole connection stagnates. So the pursuit standard, you're not playing games, you're not trying to be hard to catch or any of that kind of stuff. It's really about giving him space to invest, space to show up. If he goes quiet, let there be silence. Focus on your life. Let his next move tell you what you need to know about his level of interest. A man who is genuinely interested in you will return to the space that you have held open. A man who doesn't return to that space tells you everything that you need to know about that guy. Now, standard number 4 is one that took me the longest to fully understand. And once you hear it, I think that you're going to see it in every relationship that you've ever had. Standard number 4 is called the identity standard. And here's the key. Do not make yourself smaller to keep him comfortable. Do not become someone that you're not. Do not surrender your passions, your desires, your belief in life so that he can be comfortable or that you can be with him. I had a client who was super successful in her business, super successful in life. She has a great relationship with her kids, with her friends, and she came to me saying, I'm not sure that I actually want a relationship. I'm wondering, is there something wrong with me? Because maybe I don't want a relationship. And I said, you know how I know that that's actually not true? That you do probably want a relationship. And she goes, how do you know? And I said, because you're here asking me the question right now. If truly you didn't want a relationship, there would have been no part of you that sought me out, made time for this conversation. Something in you feels unsettled and at conflict with this idea. And so you're wondering if it's okay to just resign yourself to not having a relationship. And I said, let me ask you this. When you think about a relationship, what is it that that relationship is going to cost you? What is it that's going to actually degrade if you get into that relationship? And it was like a light bulb went off. And she was like, oh my gosh, there's this belief that I have that my business is going to actually suffer if I'm in a relationship. There's a belief that I'm going to have to give up my power and who I am as a strong, independent woman if I have this relationship. And I said, perfect. That's a beautiful insight. Now your job is to erase that old belief and actually build a new vision for what kind of relationship would it take that in this relationship, your business grew because of it. What kind of man would be required such that you didn't lose the strength in you, that independence in you, because it is that he's most attracted to? What would it have to be that you actually could know yourself and become even more of your true self in his presence? That's the vision you want to cast. Now, I get it. It is super common, the fear of losing ourselves in a relationship because perhaps you've lost yourself in a past relationship. But here's what's super important is to know that you are not that person anymore. And you can absolutely create the relationship where your business increases, your freedom increases, your power increases. What I find most compelling about my wife, Irene, what draws me to her, is her at her most fully ignited self. When she is excited about something that she believes in, when she's passionate about something, or when she holds her ground on something that matters to her, that expands my attraction. That expands what I love most about her. It feeds my connection with her. The identity standard says this: your vision for yourself and for your life doesn't diminish because of that relationship with your man. Your ambitions don't get softer or take a back seat. Your friendships don't get more distant. Your standards don't get quieter. They remain fully, unapologetically yourself, and you let that be the filter. The right man is going to be drawn closer to you because of it. The wrong man is going to be repelled by it. And this fifth standard is one that is super important. You do not want to skip it because it's the one that protects you early in dating and really for the entire arc of the relationship in such a way that you can relax and feel safe, and that's when your heart opens even more. Standard number 5 is the consistency standard. You want to evaluate this guy by his action pattern, not just by the relationship peaks, which are really easy and seductive to evaluate a relationship by. I work with a woman, I'll call her Dana, and she told me about a guy that she started seeing who was, in her words, everything she had ever wanted. Like, this guy was amazing. And month 1 was extraordinary. He planned dates and he picked her up and he opened the car door and it was fun. It was laughter. He was thoughtful. He was present. He was consistent in his communication. He pursued her. And she said, like, I've never felt so seen by anyone. And that was month 1. And now we're into month 2 and things are shifting. But his texts became less frequent. And she noticed that he was becoming more distant. And she told herself, oh, he's just busy and, he's got big work deadlines and all of us go through these kind of seasons. And that was month 2 and now it's month 3 and now he's more emotionally distant, more pulling back. And he's making excuses, saying things like, well, I've just been in my head. Work's really stressful lately. But ultimately there's less warmth in his texts, less frequent conversations and communication. And by month 4, he calls it off. And when Dana and I actually look back at this whole arc together, The pattern was actually visible from week 5. He's not a bad guy in this. It's just that he ultimately discovered that Dana wasn't his person. And so he started pulling back in his investment. And the challenge was she had tasted the peak, and that tasted really, really good to her. And she was like, I want more of that. And so the mind likes to make excuses for that kind of behavior. And what you really want to do is hold a standard for consistency. She had been evaluating this entire relationship based on what he looked like at his best, not what he looked like consistently. And here's something that I've come to believe about early relationships. Anyone can show up beautifully for 30 days. Like anyone can put on a good scene, a good vibe for 30 days. That first month of a relationship is, in many ways, the performance. Like we're trying to bring our best. And it's not dishonest, like we're not trying to fool anybody, but we are bringing an elevated experience because we want to woo and court the other person. The real information comes after that, after the novelty settles down, after life gets into the normal routine, after you've seen him in a stressful week and you see how he handles it, after plans get complicated and you see whether he repairs with you or whether he avoids the situation. A great practice is actually to give the relationship at least 90 days before you declare this guy is the one for you. He's your person. And that gives you enough of a timeline where you can get the direction of the pattern before making a major emotional investment or major life decision around this relationship. And nobody's looking for perfection, but what you want to, with the standard of consistency you're looking for, does he show up in a consistent pattern that feels good to you? Do you feel consistently safe? Do you feel consistently at peace? Or are you consistently on eggshells, consistently wondering? Those are two really good clues. When something goes sideways, does he address it or does he disappear? Over time, does his investment hold steady? Is he all in or does he slip away? So let's bring all 5 together for you right now. You've got the pace standard, letting the emotional pace lead the sexual pace of the relationship before you get emotionally invested. You've got the exclusivity standard. You're not taking yourself off the market until you both have clearly, directly communicated the exclusivity. Number 3 is the pursuit standard. You are not filling in the gaps. You're giving him the space to show up, to pursue, and you let his response tell you his level of investment. And number 4 is the identity standard, is that you are staying fully you, aligned with your vision for a life that you love, and you're letting the right man align with you there. And number 5, the consistency standard, is that you evaluate him by his pattern over time, not by the peaks in the relationship. And so here's what I encourage you to walk away with. The women I've watched create the most extraordinary love lives are not the ones who are the most guarded. They're the ones who are the most grounded in who they are, grounded in what they believe, grounded in what they want, and they were willing to communicate those standards early and clearly. My question for you is, which one of these standards lands the hardest for you? Like, which one do you know, hey, if I communicate that more, I know it will really serve me? Go ahead and put that in the comments below. I love reading your comments. And if you know of a woman in your life who's standing at one of these moments right now, I encourage you, share this video with her. I appreciate you. Here's to your amazing love life. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.